Okay, I'm going to walk you through what a gel electrophoresis is and how you use it and all that cool, fun stuff. So first of all, a gel electrophoresis is you chop up DNA and you put it into these wells. I found this really great gift by the Amoeba sisters. You put it into these DNA fragments into these wells, and then you plug the apparatus in because DNA has a slight charge, so it will move away from the negative charge because negatives don't like negatives, right? And move down the gel. Now, interestingly, some of the big fragments of DNA are big and some are smaller. So the big fragments will not move as quickly. So they'll be closer to the well end. And I always thought of it kind of like running through water. The bigger you are, maybe the harder time you have running through water. The small things that are very small have an easier time moving quickly through water. That's how I always thought of it. So in this example, you get exactly what you expect to get, which is baby guppy, right here, right? Baby guppy should share its DNA with his parents, right? Some DNA from mom and some DNA from dad. That's what you expect. You expect all offspring to have some DNA from mom and some DNA from dad. And so when you look at this, and let me put my eyeballs on so I can look at it. So when you look at this, okay, we have baby guppy, and baby guppy got that DNA from dad, right? Baby guppy got this DNA from its mom. Baby guppy got this DNA from its daddy-o. And this DNA, baby guppy got it from its mom. So cool. Now, if you ever get a question where they say, like, these are the parents' DNA, which kids are theirs, then you're always looking for kids who have both parents' DNA. If you get a kid that only has DNA from one parent, there's no way of telling if that other parent, contributed any DNA. So it can be tricky. You're always looking for both parents' DNA in the offsprings, right? Crime scenes, for sure. So here's the victim's DNA, right? We've collected, yeah, on CSI. They collect that at the crime scene. Then they have this other DNA, and they run the gel electrophoresis, and they say, hey, this other DNA we found at the crime scene doesn't belong to the victim. So that must be our suspect. So then they have their suspects, and they collect DNA from the suspects. And what did they find? Well, I think you can look at this and tell me which suspect is responsible for the specimen at the crime scene, right? Suspect number 1, because that DNA right there, that DNA fingerprint is exactly like the one that they found at the crime scene, right? It's a DNA fingerprint, just like your own fingerprints, but this is molecular. The more you expect to share more DNA with people you are more closely related to, right? So you'll share more DNA with your parents than you do with your grandparents, than you do with your great-grandparents, than you do with your great-great-great-grandparents, and on and on and on and on and on. So in this kind of question, we can ask ourselves, which of these deer species is most closely related to the common ancestor? And to do that, you're just comparing. If the more DNA you share, the more closely related you are. So let's look at our common ancestor. We have a band right there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We have, is that right? 1, 2, 3. Oh no, let me back it up. Let's do this. We have 1. We have no band at 2, no band at 3. Here's a band at 4. Here's a band at 5. We have nothing at 6 or 7 or 8. But we have a band at 9. We have a band at 10. We have nothing at 11. And then a band at 12. Okie dokie, artichoke. So let's look at deer species 2. How much DNA do they share with the common ancestor? Well, they share this one, right? And then they share 10. So they share 2 bands of DNA. All right. Now let's look at species 3. They share 1 band. They also share 4, and they share 5, and they share 9, and they share 12. So all in all, they share 1, 2, 3, 4. They share 5 bands of DNA. So between 2 and 3, which one is more closely related to the common ancestor? 3, right? Because it shares more DNA. All right, now let's look at 4. 4 shares band 1, and band 4 there, and then and band 9. And it seems like that's it. So of these 3 species, who is most closely related to the common ancestor? You would say deer species 3, right? I could also flip it and say which is least related, shares the least amount of DNA. And you would say deer species 2. Okay? Finally, are we ready for a challenge? Okay? Let's see if we can figure out who the father of this child is. Now remember, a child should have DNA from both parents. So the first thing I do in any of these paternity type questions is I remove from the equation any DNA that I know the child got from its mom. So let's say this one. I know that the child got that one from mom. It got this one from mom, right? And it got this one from mom. Okay, so now all we're really looking at is this piece, and this piece of DNA. Okay, so now let's go from there. Which father might have given this child this piece of DNA? Well, not number 1, because they don't even have that. So 2, possibility. 3, possibility. And what about this piece of DNA right here? Well, possibly dad 1, still in the running. Dad 3, also another possibility. Now, what about this other piece of DNA, this one right there? Well, not possible for dad 1. And it is possible for dad 2, but it is also possible for dad 3. So when we look at all of the dads, which one gave the remaining DNA to this child? And hopefully you said dad 3. Okay, so those are some ways you use gel electrophoresis. Okay, all right, let me know if you have any questions.